It is my great honor to introduce a president who has done more for truckers in 3 months than other presidents have in 4 years. A man who has put workers first his entire life and at the center of this administration, President Joe Biden. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
You're all for good. I think she can do anything she wants, don't you? Well, hello, everyone. It's an honor to welcome you to the White House out on the lawn here. I heard that helicopter going by. I was hoping the hell it wasn't going to land. Maria, thanks for sharing your story. And my buddy Patrick Murphy, former Assistant Secretary of the Army, as well as former Congressman. And the boy stays in shape, man. Look at him.
Trying to do over you, sir.
I tell you what, man. I want to thank you for being here, man. Nobody worked harder as a congressman or acting secretary of the Army to connect veterans to opportunity, and that's what it's all been all about for you. And I want to thank another veteran who knows a thing or two about laying the foundation for good jobs and transportation sector, Secretary Buttigieg. And he says go Navy, he says go Army. I used to say go Navy, but then my son got a Bronze Star in the Army, and I decided I couldn't say it anymore. So I just say go American Forces. Anyway, I also want to recognize he couldn't be here today, but Marty Walsh, the Secretary of Labor. And he's doing an outstanding job helping to lead this effort alongside Pete, Secretary Buttigieg. And I want to welcome members of Congress who are here today as well. Tammy, how are you, Tammy? Good to see you. Tammy Baldwin, by the way. And also Congressman Pete DeFazio. And Laura Underwood. Where's Laura? There she is, right there, right in front. Good to see you, Laura. And I want to particularly shout out to the new president of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien. Stand up, man. I want him to see you. As they say in parts of Wilmington, Delaware, these guys brung me to the dance 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And also, I want to say a quick hi to a pal, and you've been a pal. Thank you for being here and getting things done. And, in addition to all that, there's an outfit called, you probably heard of them, United Mine Workers. Yeah, well, they got the president here, too. Mr. President, where are you? Where's he sitting? He was here. A lot of truckers, United Mine Workers. At any rate, folks, I spent a lot of time talking about the economy and the record-breaking economic comeback we're experienced because of a lot of you sitting out there in those chairs. Today, I want to talk with people who are making the comeback possible. People like Maria, who you just heard from, and her son Roman, who's going pretty soon, and all those truck drivers and their families are here today. I want to thank you all to keep what you're doing to keep America moving, because that's literally what you're doing, especially these last 2 years, helping carry the nation literally on your backs. You've learned on Friday the economy created 431,000 jobs in March, a record. Over the course of my presidency, the economy has now created 7.9 million jobs. More jobs in the first 14 months than any president ever, in large part because of all of you. Not a joke. Unemployment's at 3.6%, down from 6.4 when we took office. The fastest decline in unemployment start of any presidential term ever recorded. And after a long stretch, Americans are back to work. Americans are back to work. An economy has gone from being on the mend to being on the move. And the economy we're building a strong economy. One where hard-working Americans can live with dignity, support their families, build a better life, and a better life for their children as well. All of you here today are people our economy should be built around, because you all are the people who literally make it run. That's not hyperbole. You literally make it run. I have nothing against investment bankers. They could all retire and nothing much would change. You all quit, everything comes to a halt. Think about it. I'm not joking. Think about it. Come to a literal halt. During the pandemic, a lot of Americans have been introduced to a term you all know well, and Pete used it, supply chains. A simple term. Supply chain is a journey, the journey of a product to get to a customer's doorstep. That's what it is. And during the pandemic, Those chains were interrupted. Factory closures around the world, not just the United States, around the world, caused backups and delays because of COVID. At the same time, because of the strength and speed of our recovery, Americans had more money in their pockets than they had in a long time. During the pandemic, they wanted to spend that money not on restaurants or vacations, which are now coming back as well, but on hard goods. They wanted home improvements, televisions, automobiles, things that had to be transported. The very products that slowed down by disruption of the supply chain. Demand was high. Supply was interrupted. And the recipe for higher prices and long delays. That's exactly what we saw not only here, but all around the world. So we knew we needed every tool at our disposal to address the problem. And the best way to do it was to invest in people who make the supply chain run. Trucking moves about 70% of all the goods in this country. 70%. And truck drivers are facing real challenges. The average driver waits 4.5 hours for their truck to be loaded and unloaded during an 11-hour shift, and 40% of their day. And they don't get paid for that wait time. Back in 1978, the average truck driver's pay was $34 an hour in today's dollars. Last year, it was $25 an hour, nearly a 30% decline. In this iconic American industry, it's getting harder and harder to raise a family with dignity and pride that you deserve. And it's no surprise so many drivers left their jobs. The workforce is getting older. Not that I am, but they are. I used to drive a truck. It's a long story. Anyway, it's getting hard. And I thought I was going to get to drive one of these suckers today. But anyway, it's another story, too. But look, it's getting harder and harder to recruit new drivers, particularly women and people of color, to an industry that this nation and our economy desperately needs at full strength. The good news is that since I took office, we've begun to turn things around. In fact, in 2021 was the best year for trucking employment since 1994. There are now 35,000 more trucking jobs than there were before the pandemic. But we all know we need to move faster, getting more people working in this industry in jobs they can rely on and raise a family on. That's why last December, we brought together industry and labor to tackle the problem facing drivers. And we listened. And when we heard that there were long wait times in many states for people to get their commercial driver's license, their CDLs, we took action. We provided technical assistance as well as $57 million in federal funds to help states issue these CDLs faster. And I'm proud to report, because of Pete and others, so far in 2022, we're issuing CDLs at double the rate of last year, 120,000 in January and February alone. We also know that the key ingredient to getting and keeping more drivers was increasing training programs like the registered apprenticeships approved by the Department of Labor. Programs that allow aspiring drivers to earn while they learn, while making this essential job more attractive for potential drivers regardless of age, background, and gender. The program has proven to be improved safety and better working conditions and better pay and benefits. Typically, it takes about 8 months to create a registered apprenticeship program. But because of Pete and others in the Department of Labor, we're able to cut the red tape, and now it takes as little as 2 days. As a result, in the last 90 days, 100 major employers have launched new registered apprenticeship programs. UPS, Domino's, Pepsi's, Albertsons, and more, along with the trade associations like the American Trucking Association, the National Minority Trucking Association, the Food Industry Association, and others. What that all adds up to is a strong foundation for the work ahead, a pipeline of hardworking men and women from all backgrounds, highly trained and highly motivated to get behind the wheel, including a whole lot of veterans, thanks to the Veterans Trucking Initiative known as Task Force Movement by Patrick Murphy, led by Patrick Murphy. And by the way, I'd say parenthetically, If you can handle a tank, if you can handle an armored personnel carrier, you sure in hell can handle one of these suckers. And an awful lot of well-known people also. The idea, I remember, I'm going to digress for 1 second. I got a commercial license because my dad used to run an automobile agency. And I used to have to go up to the body shop up in Philadelphia from Wilmington. And when they'd order a trailer or a cab, they'd sell the cab. And so I had to have a license to be able to drive it up and back. And so during the trucker strike years later, when I was a young senator, there was a guy who ran steel from Deemer Steel out to Ohio. And so I decided to ride out with him, see what it was like on the strike. And I was driving, going through Shiloh, Ohio. And his handle was Big Ten. And remember, everybody, all the truck stops were being blockaded at the time during the strike. And he called. He said, Big Ten wanting to come in. I forget exactly how he said it. And the only woman truck driver I ever knew I met that day, she said, "This is Big Mama, no room." Swear to God, true story. Swear to God. He said, "I've got a United States Senator driving my truck." She said, "I got the damn president in mind, so what?" I'll never forget that. I was a very powerful guy. Anyway, that was the first woman trucker I met. But look, the labor and transportation departments are working closely with industry to tackle issues facing women in trucking, recruit and retrain more women drivers, so we can draw more Americans to work with increased wages, reduced wait times, and improved safety, and so much more. Folks, there's a heck of a lot more we have to do, a lot more we have to do. Secretary Buttigieg has laid out some of the steps we're taking to make these jobs more attractive for more Americans. And it's all centered around listening to you, the drivers. Look, we've got to keep it going. We're building a better economy around American manufacturing and American supply chains. And thanks to the infrastructure law, and it wasn't my law, it was a bipartisan, one of the few great bipartisan things we've done this year. We're making the largest investment in American roads and bridges since literally the creation of the interstate highway system. And that means a bright future for American trucking. This country will be counting on you more than it ever has. So you should be able to count on us to keep investing in you and your families. That's exactly what we're going to do. I'm looking forward to all the progress we're going to make together. And I want to thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do. Thank your families, and may God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What do we do now?
Humanity. Everybody else got some. Well, you're coming.
Okay, good.
Last question on humanity. Sir, you can't legislate and you can't executive order out the issue of empathy or the lack thereof in the midst of this rhetoric, this heated political rhetoric. What's next?
Part of what I think leadership requires, and I hope I meet the standard, is letting people know you understand their problem. Again, my dad used to have an expression. He said, "I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect them to at least know what they are, understand them." And like a lot of you, we've been very fortunate as a family, but we've also been through a lot of fairly tough times. And I've had the great advantage of having a family to get through them. When my first wife and daughter were killed when a tractor trailer broadsided them and killed my wife and killed my first wife and killed my daughter, and my two boys are expected to die. It took the jaws of life 3 hours to get them out there on top of their dead mother and dead sister. I understand what that pain's like. And when Jill and I lost Bo after a year in Iraq, winning the Bronze Star Conspicuous Service Medal, a major in the United States military, came home with stage 4 glioblastoma because he lived about between 200 and 500 yards from a burn pit that's 10 feet deep and as big as a football field, burning every toxic waste you could find. You know, I think that we understand what it's like to lose family members, mothers, fathers to cancer. All of you been through that kind of thing. We've been fortunate, though. We've had each other. We've had strong families, Jill's sisters, my brothers, my sister. And so what we can do to deal with that empathy is make sure there's help available. Make sure there's people who are there to help, whether they are psychologists or whether they're medical doctors or whether they're social workers, to be there to help just hold a hand. And for example, we can do an awful lot for a lot of families, the families you're talking about, if we reinstate this child tax credit. It cut child poverty by 40% when it was in place. I couldn't get it passed the second time around. So there's a lot we can do. And the empathy is not just talking about it, it's communicating to people you genuinely understand. And I hope a lot of people don't understand because I don't want people having to know the pain. But the second piece of that is let them know that you are there to help. You're there to help. And one of the things I've talked with Vivek Murthy about, and a lot of you have written about it, and you've written it well about it, is the need for mental health care in America. You know, when we got elected, there were something like, 2, 3, 5 million people who gotten their COVID shots. Well, in the meantime, I got over 220 million people, all 3 shots. But in the meantime, what happened? We lost over 1 million dead. 1 million dead. I read one study that for those 1 million people, they had 9 people who were each one had averaged 9 people close to them. A relative, someone they're married to, a child, someone close. The impact has been profound. Think of all the people, think of all your children and your grandchildren who didn't have that senior prom, who didn't have that graduation party, who didn't have all the things we had that we took for granted, that impact on their psyche. So there's a lot we have to do. And empathy reflects itself not just in what a person demonstrates they understand, of knowing what people need and helping to make it happen. And we're trying to do that. And a lot of Republicans trying to do it too. I don't mean this is a partisan thing. A lot of people are trying to do it because they know we got a problem.